Today's edition of the podcast is brought to you by Coach Me Plus. Coach Me Plus is the leader in athlete management software and a product that I've been lucky enough to be using for a little over a year now. Only rivaled by the impeccable customer service that Kevin and his staff provides, Coach Me Plus's ability to constantly be amoeba-like in their ability to mold and matriculate what you're trying to get across and bring together is absolutely fantastic. Their constant pursuit of better ways and better methods and innovations and progress to their own product is absolutely fantastic. Go over to CoachMePlus.com. Check out what they got, guys. It's something that I guarantee you won't be disappointed with. Hello, and welcome to the podcast. Today, guys, we have an awesome talk with Jim Ferris fitness owner, Jim Ferris. Guys, we're going to go over a whole mess of stuff. We're going to talk about the Shield and where it came from, how Jim looks at assessment with his athletes and working with other coaches' kids, how that relationship with other coaches is driven based around what the kid needs and working with coaches as he trains their athletes remotely. And then we really get into a lot of what they do there with programming, how he sets up his programs, and how he looks at the real life requirements for all the athletes that he has there and how he manages their training around it. We get into his use of the Gymaware, and then we finally we get to talking about building relationships. And Jim's been in a very unique situation where he's been able to spend some extended periods of time over in China. So it's some really, really great stuff, guys. I hope you enjoyed the talk as much as I did, guys. Let's get right to it. Jim, thanks for being on with us today, man.
Jay, thanks for having me, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, so let's just give people a little story, how the Shield came about, and let's get from there.
All right. Well, the Shield came about through, when I was getting my business license, I just hired some online company, and I paid 3 artists to do 10 different designs. 29 designs sucked. I hated 29. And when I actually got to the Shield, I was like, this is perfect. So it's actually based off of, some people might hate it, but it's based off the Duke Blue Devils away uniform, the black and the blue. And, that's kind of where I drove it from. And, I think from there, the Shield just kind of grew and I kind of forced it on people. I just started sending shirts to people and making people wear it. And, I think I'm giving myself some credit as I think I brought, people's individual shirts into the whole trade show. People love to trade them now. And I'm giving myself credit for that. If I'm giving myself any credit in this industry, I think I brought, sharing shirts and logos and all that stuff with each other.
That's awesome. And the connection to Duke prior to the the private sector is a basketball one.
Yeah. I became a Coach K fan.
Yes.
I hated Duke growing up. I hated Leitner. I was a Kentucky fan, and he hit that shot in Philadelphia. So I despised him. But when I got to high school, I kind of loved his dictatorship and leadership and just the way the kids kind of played for him. And, I kind of fell in love with him as a mentor and a coach in that sense.
Right. And it's now something where you work in the private sector in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
With everyone ranging from WNBA players to the general population.
Yeah, correct.
And one thing that we see a lot of, because you post a lot of great stuff on social media, is talking about how different things can mean the same thing for different people.
Yeah.
And starting with the evaluation process. So let's say Jay DeMayo, the Division III soccer player, walks in to Jim's.
Okay.
How do we start the process there?
I said it's like I said, no different for anybody else. We're going to do a movement screen, so we're going to take some stuff from probably FMS. I do some stuff from PRI that I've learned, from the courses I've taken there. I take some stuff from functional range assessment, and I've learned from those guys, SPINA, and just stuff I've learned over 15 years. It's just what do you think this person needs? Try it, and everything that we do is an assessment. I think at all times, so we're always plugging different stuff in, but. I just think basic movement screens and things like that for everybody in the beginning. And, what's the goal? What's the timeline we have to work with? And, what I try not to stray away from a lot is, these kids are sent home with programs on their own. I try to, incorporate that stuff still, or, contact you. Like if you're sending me a kid, I'm going to talk to you and say, okay, we have a general team program, but, can we tweak anything for this kid, or can I do some things that I see day to day that might help this kid a little bit more? So,
How do you see coaches handling those conversations?
Some coaches just say they're 100% on board. They just say, do what you want to do. My thing is, like, it's if they're going back on day one and there's some specific conditioning tests that they have to be ready for, we have to have them ready for it. You might be 100% right in your individual thinking what this person needs, but if they go back and they flunk some conditioning tests and fail, like, they're not coming back. So you kind of have to, find where you can blend things in and, make everybody happy, but still, do it accordingly.
Okay, so let's talk about how you're looking at the programming with these kids. So what are the basic principles behind Jim Ferris and what he's doing with most of these athletes?
So if we're looking at it, it's just looking at it from an energy system development point, or, a speed point. Do we need these kids to be able to do something at a higher rate, bigger, or from a more capacity point? So, are we trying to make them aerobic monsters? They need, anaerobic at this point. What's their weakness that when we can send them back, they're going to be a better athlete for that team? So what's the weakest link, obviously, and, how do we build off it?
Okay, and then let's talk about now, how do we identify what these weakest links are? So when you look, the functional movement screen and the PRI and SPINA stuff is great, but if we're talking energy systems, we're looking at different evals. Let's break those down a bit.
Right. So, some basic testing that we could go beep test, we could go sprint fatigue. I'll do stuff with 10-second sprint, 30-second recovery, match up the first 3 runs versus the last 3 runs and see what the tail off is or the fall off. Simple agility test, you name it. Like I'll plug everything in, and mix and match, but it's just, like I said, what's the athlete? What's the sport? What are we focused on for that kid? But yeah.
So then when you bring these kids home, because it's difficult, and it's a situation that we run into in college in the summer too, when you're looking at kids with schedules and work and things of that nature.
Yeah.
When you're plugging these kids in, and you may have kids in vastly different sports working in the same group, how do you guys go about keeping a team atmosphere but still making sure it's a one-on-one type of thing?
I think the tough part that I deal with all athletes, soccer, lacrosse, basketball, is their overall schedule, right? They might come and see me 3 to 5 times a week at 9 o'clock in the morning and then go work some type of, physical labor job, kids in the summertime. But then they're playing summer league. They have these skills coaches as well. And, hey, I don't know a skill coach out there that just does skill. They're conditioning sessions in my mind, and it's running kids through the ringer at nighttime. So it's my job. I feel like I have to do is adapt to everything else that's going on. So, because I'm the only one I think that understands how to adapt, right? The skill coach they're going to do the conditioning no matter what you say, and then these kids are going to play in that summer league no matter what, because it's their chance to play. So I think my job day to day is adjust off their weekly schedule and say, look, here's the risk and reward of what we have to do this week, but here's the work outside the gym. So this is the work I can do with you in the gym, and there's that buy-in, and, there's some resistance sometimes because they want to do more, but it's like, is it worth it at this point? You got 5 other hours scheduled today of physical labor, right? So it's a tough find sometimes, but, we usually figure it out and get the balance, and, it's, I guess, better safe than sorry. Maybe I'm a little too safe sometimes in that aspect, but like I said, I can't crush this kid and send him back, fatigued and not ready to go.
No. And I think that's something that a lot of people can take a lesson from, is that you can always train tomorrow.
Yeah.
And instead of just drilling them into the ground, if they're going to have all these other things, you can always take, the second day and go from there.
Yeah. And like I said, these kids, I feel like they live off of dosage, they live off of quantity. And, what I get with them, and, if we do data collection or we use something like, a Gymaware and base everything off velocity, they get that type of stuff, after some time. But if I don't do something that gives them feedback that they can see, They just want to do more. So that's what I've learned, I think, with my 2 years now of having a Gymaware, is like if you use this with these kids that live off of quantity, they respect the quality of work when they can measure numbers and they see how that stuff works.
So let's get into that a little bit. So how do you implement, the bar velocity, and what exactly are you looking at, and how are you communicating it with the kids you work with?
So like I said, basically with the squatting and the deadlifting type stuff, it's 100% stolen from Brian Mann. I'm a big fan of his book, and I've connected a lot with the guys out at iFast. They're doing a lot of things with the Gymaware and some studies on readiness and things like that. Cool. So for me, it's been, just teaching these kids how to move based off the bar speed, because I feel like I get a lot of kids that they just want to go heavy and slow. They just have to feel like they have to keep grinding, and they miss a lot of that speed, strength, speed, those little things that are going to help overall throughout the year. Because I think these kids tax themselves too hard. They're crushing their nervous systems every day by going heavy, slow, heavier and slower, heavier and slower. And I think the Gymaware, like for me, has just given them something to compete against as well. Because when they see these numbers, they're like, oh, okay. Now I get why we're lifting at 40% or 50%. And my goal is to stay in this range. And, we're doing sets of 2 until I have a 10% drop off. So that's cool. It's just different. It's actually helped me teach better, because if I just tell a kid we're going to lift 50% fast, they don't get it. And, that could be my fault too. Maybe I wasn't good enough teaching at, why they were doing it, but the Gymaware has actually made my job a lot easier.
No, that's awesome. I've never thought about the teaching realm of it. The competitive realm, obviously, It shows up.
Yeah.
So then, when we get into that, you're looking strength, speed, and speed, strength. So you're keeping these kids 0.4 to 75.
0.35, 0.4. Yeah, you're right in that range. Yeah.
And we're looking at squats and deads with all the kids.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Now, how does that change with, say, like the WNBA kids that you have in there now? When we get into the high-level pros, what alterations, pro or con, do you see with them?
With the pros, it's like I said, this girl I have now is Maggie Lucas. She's actually just coming off an ACL tear. So she actually just got cleared to get back on the court yesterday. But with her, it's, like I said, it's just a big strength foundation right now, and working with the PT until we get, clearance on, to do some other things. But she's she's a workhorse, and it's just one of those kids that I feel like she's the one I have to stop from doing things, right? Like, she overbooks herself. She's on the court 7 days a week. She's a gym monster. Mm-hmm. So with her, it's helping her maintain and kind of back off some things and the volume control. So using like a Gymaware with her really helped control, because she's, she wants to do more at all times. So but besides that, the training's no different. If you come in and you see a program of mine, you're going to see something that's, kind of West Side-ish, a little bit of Cal Dietz, triphasic. I just take from everything. A lot of Joel Jamieson, in terms of how he programs, energy systems and things along those lines. There's nothing that you're going to come in and be like, wow, what is this? I've never seen this before. You probably read it and you've probably seen it. And, it's just things I think are easy to apply, athletes, general pop, no different. But, fine tweaking it for them to, get the job done.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting combination. If you could elaborate a little more, because when people think of Louis stuff, they're automatically thinking max effort, dynamic effort. They think of Cal's. They're thinking, right now you might even be thinking like super maximal eccentrics.
Yeah.
And Joel, most people automatically think aerobic training.
Oh yeah, 100%.
So let's talk. How do you break that week down?
So a lot of times these kids are, they're going to come in and train anywhere from 3 to 5 times a week, right? Depending on, like I said, their outside schedules. I kind of like how Cal does like a medium day on Monday, heavy day Wednesday, capacity day Friday. But I also try to teach these kids that like they can be good to go on Monday as well, right? Like, you don't have to have a bad weekend. Like, Mondays can be really good. They don't have to be slow and sluggish. But like I said, with I like to do a lot of max work on Wednesdays, though. I like to keep that in the middle of the week and follow that up with the capacity stuff on Fridays. And I just try to blend in, the energy system work from Joel, pretty much Monday, Wednesday, Friday as well. Obviously, keeping everything under the same bucket in terms of energy systems of what we're doing. Are we doing? Is it aerobic phase, anaerobic phase? We're sprinkling in some lactate overkill. Yeah, I just try to blend everything together in that sense. And I try to blend it in with their training, like with their skill stuff. So I tell them how to go do their basketball shooting that day, and they maybe mix this stuff in between foul shots or dribbling skills, stuff like that.
And how receptive are they to that?
To my face, they're receptive. And then sometimes I have to sneak in the gym and peek in the back and see what they're doing, But it's I think once they understand why we're doing it that way, they'll change a little bit. But like I said, when you have someone that's a 10, 15 year of habit, basketball kids are habits, man. They have to do the same shot 1,000 times a day. And it's like, okay, well, you shoot 80%, by yourself, but in the game you're shooting 45. So why do you keep doing the same shooting thing? It's just a habit. So, sometimes you can break a kid's habit in 2 weeks. Sometimes it takes 2 years to influence them on some change. But, you just have to keep plugging. It's our job is to figure out a way to get into their head and make them understand.
Yeah, I think that's an awesome spot to take a detour and talk about the relationships that you're able to build with these kids and doing that. Do you have any stories where there's been either some resistance that led to success when it comes to changing those behaviors? Because I think that's a direction a lot of coaches are really looking to go in and people have a hard time with.
Yeah. I do my best to try to understand where people come from, understand their why, understand their drive, their goals, right? And I do my best to make them understand that everything I'm doing is what I think is in their best interest as well. It's a lot of times you want to ask somebody, do you think I'm trying to hold you back? Do you think I'm trying to stop you from greatness? No, I'm trying to make sure you're doing what's right. So I actually had a center or, power forward. He's in the Big Ten, plays at Penn State. He basically fired each other, probably sophomore, junior year of high school because, he didn't listen and, we had battles and I talked to the parents and I said, look, this isn't working, and I'll find you somebody else. It wasn't, there was no hatred, but we couldn't find middle ground. We couldn't get along and he wanted to dictate what he was going to do. And he's back now, right? So he's now, I think, a sophomore, junior at Penn State. And we, I think, kind of grew on each other over the years and understood each other a little bit better. And, we found a way to make it work. So I think that's the beauty of when you're in private sector, you have a little bit more control of who you work with, obviously, and the relationships, right? And, I got a nice reminder because I just spent 3 months in China working with a pro team. And whether they liked it or not, these guys had to work with me, right? So I had to find ways to, get these Chinese players through a translator, to buy into me. And I had fights weekly, right? 18-year-old kid center. I mean, private meetings, yelling at each other, locking the weight room so he couldn't go in. It was just insane. But I think we love those types of journeys, and those relationships they end up being the best ones when you eventually do get that person to buy in. But I just think you really have to, put your ego aside as a coach and figure out how to get these kids to buy in and understand. It's not going to happen on day one, might not happen day two, but you just have to figure it out and just blend things in. I think a lot of times we try to bring a kid in and flip them, 180, and say, we're changing everything today, and they don't get it. And we just have to, I think, find your way that you can get people to understand. I think with the diversity of people I've worked with over the years, from the NBA, WNBA, overseas, general, population people, I think I've developed just a good way to get people to understand, without, slamming them or killing what they were doing before. But, I think that's just me.
Yeah, man. Teach them and bring them in. Don't try to flip them over and make them run the other way,
100%.
And I can attest to what it's like being in one of those uncomfortable situations going through a translator, because I spent about a month over in China coaching as well, and it was Those are fun.
And, I mean, I would look at these people and I'd be like, you brought me here because you wanted me to do this stuff, right? And I can't tell you if someone says the phrase to me, well, it's our tradition and culture. One more time, I'm gonna flip something. Well, your tradition and culture is why I'm here because it's not working. It's 9 months of 2-a-days, Monday through Saturday, and it's brutal. I talked to. There's a strength coach on Shanghai, and he was just like, hey, man, he's like, I love in season because we train once a day. He's like, the rest of the year, it's insane. And that's just how they do it. It's robotic for them.
Oh, and when you have 1 billion people you can choose from, you can let it be survival of the fittest.
Yeah. That's why there was a stat I think I saw a little while ago. They were comparing, China got this many medals in the Olympics, but it was based off percentage of people in the country. And they were ranked last. And I said, well, who cares? Why does that matter? They still have 1 billion people and they still got medals. I don't think they care about the percentage.
No. And Rhett talked about that last year about this time on an episode because he was with the divers, and it's like they just go and go and go. And it's crazy, man. I've never seen anything like it.
They're robots. And it's like if they learn something one way, it's staying there, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think the first day I walked into practice, and it was like a shoot around. And I mean, everybody made every shot. Like, they didn't miss a shot. But then when you put them into a game and you make them take a step left or a step right, they're missing, right? It's off. It's just, there's such robotic creatures over there, which is, it's impressive in itself. But I think, they lack that creativity and those intangibles of thinking on their own because they just like to be told what to do. So that was just a very interesting, way to see people play.
So on top of, the obvious learning experience that is spending time over in China,
yeah,
how did that make you a better coach?
It's just when you're around different cultures and you just see how they respond and react to everything. It's like, the cool thing for me is I was there for 3 months, and a lot of it for me was observing. I didn't have to coach. I had to just sit and take notes, and it created a lot of questions for me, for them. Why do you guys do this? Or why do you do that? Or, what's your thoughts behind this? So for me, it was like I just got to sit and watch and see so many different things. And then, just to figure out why it made them tick or talk that way. Like, what's your purpose with all this stuff? And it was just the culture over there is just, it's all about effort, right? They just want to see more effort. And it was the quantity over quality. And, it's just, what we're trying to teach people to get away from. We're trying to bring quality to this and purpose to that. Why are you doing this running drill today? What's the point? Looking at the testing that the CBA does and, how these guys have to prepare for things. It's just there's things you're going to agree with, things you're going to disagree with, but either way, you have to have them ready for it. And so, that's always a tough thing to bite sometimes. They have a squat test based off of body weight, and you get a point, per squat. And if you fail, you can't play as a Chinese player. You couldn't play. It's just, it's a whole different world, I think, in that sense, So I think it just, also lets me know I'm doing a lot of things right, I think, back here in the private stuff.
No, that's awesome. I think that the one thing that it got me to do, because I'm not the most patient human being in the world.
Yeah.
So, when we would be going through drills and coaching and through the workouts, it took me 2 times of waiting for the translator. I got really good at pointing to show people what I wanted.
Yeah.
Whether it be on me or on them, and
yeah.
I think that was the big thing that I took away is that you really can coach in loud music because they don't have to hear you.
Yeah. That's true. I didn't even think about it in that sense, but yeah, your cues become a lot shorter.
Oh yeah.
And I felt if they weren't getting it, I would still just yell louder. And
totally did that too.
They're not going to get it. They still don't get it, even if I'm saying it loud.
Oh yeah. Or you throw an F-bomb in the middle with it. You're like, oh, maybe that'll help.
that's what we talked about. That's the universal word. Everybody knows what that is. It doesn't matter. If you say that word, Everyone knows it. So, yeah, I yelled it a lot of times, but, they would just laugh because they knew it was just, sometimes I'd be like, you know what I'm saying. I know you know what I'm saying. Like, I know you get it. You guys are just playing dumb.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, that's so funny because I can see. I mean, shoot, this was 5 years ago, 6 years ago, and I can see the kids' faces the first time I said that, and it was just like,
Oh, yeah.
like when the dog the first time you say like car and they know the word, and it was just like, oh, I know what that is.
Yeah.
Now I'm perked up. What are we doing?
Yeah. So, and we had a Euro coach from Italy, and he F-bombed every other word. So I think that was really interesting to see, right? You have a Euro League basketball coach now trying to coach in China. And, Italians, they coach with their hands. Like, everything's a mannerism. It's just like they coach with their heart and this passion, and they're screaming. And then the Chinese are just looking and staring back with a blank face. Yep. And it drove him nuts. Like, I thought he was going to have a heart attack. And I'm like, Coach, they're not going to respond. Like, don't do this. It's not going to work. It won't work.
Yeah, but no, man, that's freaking awesome. So I think that the main takeaways we can look at from this is no matter who you're working with, you got to evaluate. It's got to have a purpose, and you got to build it. And that no matter what culture you cross, teaching is teaching, and people are people, and you've got to be able to connect with them and build these relationships in order for them, because nobody cares how much you know till they know how much you care, brother.
Yeah, 100%.
But yeah, hey, Jim, I can't thank you enough for being on with us today, man. This is absolutely fantastic. We're gonna have this up right away, man. People are gonna love it. Thank you so much.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Yeah, brilliant, brother. Thanks. We'll be in touch real soon.
All right, have a good one.
You too. And a huge thanks again to Jim Ferris for joining us today, guys. Just another great coach, being open and honest with their sharing, telling us exactly what they're doing with people, how they're doing it, how they're handling situations, giving real life anecdotal experience in the talk. I can't thank Jim enough for being so open and honest and sharing with us today. Absolutely fantastic stuff, guys. I'm really, really grateful for the time that Jim gave us. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the talk as much as I did, because one, Jim's a super guy, and two, he does so much to help people sharing information when it comes to social media. And if you did, share it through the social media outlet of your choice. Tweet it, Facebook, Instagram, whatever it may be, guys. Remember, just trying to get good information out to great coaches out there. If you haven't subscribed, please do. Podomatic, iTunes, YouTube, so you can get all the information out as soon as it comes out, guys. Again, awesome talk, Jim. Thank you very much. And thank you guys for everything that you do here for us at Central Virginia Sport Performance. We're really grateful for everything you guys do, and I can't thank you enough. We will be back next week with another awesome guest. We will see you then.